What's up, what's up? What's up, Kansas City? This is your girl, Tennille, and you're watching Real with Tennille. I have a most amazing guest today, Stephanie Betts, and she is the author of Behind the Smile, A Journey to Strength. I just want to read a little bit about this book and what she says about a smile. She says a smile is a warm and inviting facial expression that gives the illusion that the person is in a state of happiness or enjoying good fortune or pleasure. A smile can break the ice in a tense situation. A smile can welcome another person into your space. A smile can also cover up fear, hurt, disappointment, and pain so that no one will ask any questions. Now, tell us a little bit about what you're sharing in this book.
Well, this book is about overcoming abuse and neglect as a child, actually all the way up into my late teens. And then, unfortunately, my first marriage was abusive as well. And so what this book does is it takes you from the beginning and it takes you all the way through what I call the journey. That's the subtitle. And basically, this book is for anyone who has had some past scars, some past hurts, and maybe they're still there, they're better, but they're still there. But this book shares some processes and things that I went through that has helped me be the woman that I am today.
Excellent. Now, in this book, we talk a little bit about how you were sexually abused as a child.
Yes.
I ran across some statistics, and I wanted to read a couple of these and see if you find these are accurate or not. Okay. According to the CDC, it says 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 20 boys are a victim of sexual abuse. During a 1-year period, youth ages 14 to 17 will be victimized. 16% will have been sexually assaulted, and that children are most vulnerable to sexual abuse between the ages of 7 and 13. Another statistic that I thought in here that really shocked me was it said children who had an experience of rape or attempted rape in their adolescent years were 13.7 times more likely to experience rape in their first year of college. So what the statistics told me was pretty much that if this happens to you as a child, it's 9 times out of 10 that it's not just going to happen one time, that it's going to be a reoccurring thing. Is that true?
That is absolutely true. And unfortunately, Tennille, those are reported statistics. Okay. I will say that on the male side, that 1 in 20 really is much smaller than that. But because of it being a male, a lot of times, most times, it does not get reported. So that number is much smaller than that.
I have a question, and tell me what you think about this. I've noticed, even in talking with some people that I know have been sexually abused, it seems like if it happens to a guy, it's okay. Like if a woman takes advantage of a guy and he's 12 or 13, oh, it's okay. He's going to get it anyway. But when it happens to, as a man, forcing himself up on a girl, it seems to be a different thing. Aren't they one and the same? Isn't abuse abuse?
Abuse is abuse. But one of the things that you have to remember is it's all about what's acceptable to society. And right now, it's not okay for a male to say that a woman forced herself upon him so much that he was raped.
Is it like he's a punk if he says that? What is it, a stigma behind that?
I would probably say so, that it's this, you couldn't handle yourself. I can't believe that this particular person took advantage of you as a male, because of course we know in our society males are dominant. So it's just out of the norm. And so again, those statistics are only what has been reported. It's not what is actual. But in answer to your second question, absolutely. People who have been abused as young children or young adolescents typically do find themselves in some form of abuse later on in life. It may not be identical. It may come in a different form of fashion, such as if they were sexually assaulted or abused as a child. As an adult, it may be mental abuse or physical.
I read this book several times, and every time I find something new, I'm more shocked, more horrified, more empowered. You have got to read this book. I have a question. Can you tell us about what age you were when the sexual abuse started and who it was by?
I was somewhere around 8 years old, and it was perpetrated by my mother's boyfriend, who initially was not a live-in boyfriend. So the first wrong touch or the first inappropriate encounter came not when he was living with us, but then the actual extended sexual encounters came after that when she moved him in.
And you have said several times in the book, you were like, I know she had to have known there's something innately in us as a woman or as a mother that she had to know. Was there ever a point that she came and was like, I really did know, I just was so in love with him, I just wanted this small piece of happiness, I did know? Or has she ever come clean?
She and I have never had that conversation to this day. Basically, she divulged to me that he admitted to her eventually that everything had taken place. At the time, it was major denial. But then later on, he did admit to her that, yes, he did do that.
Tell us about the first time that you tried to tell somebody what happened.
Well, the very first time I tried to tell someone was actually my neighbor. And we had grown up together, next door neighbor, same block, and it was just too much. It was a roller coaster. And so one day I was over there on a normal sleepover, and I don't know what it was that day, but I just said, hey, I got something to tell you. And I told her what was going on, and she immediately called her mother downstairs and said, oh my God, Stephanie, tell her what you just told me. And so I told her, and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I knew something wasn't right. And I'm crying and they're crying, and I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, I finally did it. I told someone.
Now there's going to be an anchor, some lifeline is going to come in and save me now.
Absolutely. I thought that there was going to be somebody there, and it was, well, I don't know what to tell you. You got to do something about it. And that was the end of it.
You have to do something about it.
I needed to tell my mother, you have to be strong and you have to tell your mother. And that's how it ended.
I have a question. There is another part in the book where you told a family member what happened. Now tell us about this, because this was really like a high and low moment all in like 48 hours.
Well, through some different circumstances, again, this was several years later from the first attempt to tell an adult. And I was over a relative's house, and I divulged it at that time. And the relative said, I knew something wasn't right. A lot of people say, I didn't know, I didn't see the signs, I don't understand. And believe me, people who are victims of abuse leave tail signs, clear-cut signs. The issue is, a lot of times we have mechanisms in us that we really don't want to see what we're seeing. And so we justify it in our head. And so she said, I thought something wasn't right. Every time you were around or he was around, you would recoil, you would shy away, so on and so forth. And so she immediately said, you're not going back to that home. I'm going to protect you. You're going to stay here until we get all of this resolved. And man, I thought that this was the best day of my life. I was excited. It was over. It was done. And she made the phone call to my mother and explained everything. And within 24 hours, it turned around, and I was a whore, and I was lying, and she couldn't believe that I would say something like this about my mother and about him, and I had to get out of her house.
Fast forward, I want to talk about what happened when your mom really did finally come to the realization that this is my man, he has been sexually abusing my daughter, but now what? I really think that this is mind-boggling. After she was confronted and she's like, okay, daughter, I know that this is out there, and now you have a choice. You have another difficult decision to make. Tell us about that.
One thing I want to impress upon everyone is, it's real easy to say, if, I'm from the outside looking in, man, if this situation ever happened to me, I would do this, or there's no way I would allow that to happen. Because I tell you what, you never know what you're going to do until you are actually confronted with that situation. Unfortunately, she didn't make the right choice. But basically what she did was, once all the shock wore off and it was what it was and he admitted it and everything, she basically put the responsibility and the guilt on me of, well, you know, he won't have a place to go if I kick him out of the house. So would it be okay if he would just stay here in the guest room? And you're not going to press charges, are you? I mean, you can, but if you do, then, oh, we'll be embarrassed and everyone will know and all the family will know. And so basically, you have the victim and you have the perpetrators, and I say that with an S, because my mother was part of that perpetration, because she did not protect me. She did not just use what I would call basic mother instinct of leaving your young daughter with an older man for hours and hours, day upon day. You know, you just don't do that. And I'm a mother myself, and so that just should be an innate instinct. But she basically left me with the responsibility to decide his fate, but put all the guilt on me.
And so what did you decide?
And of course, I folded. You know, I didn't want to upset my mother. Here I've already, made her upset and everything. And so I said, okay, well, whatever you want.
Something else I think is very profound is that even after that, once the situation was over, you ended up getting a boyfriend, and we'll talk a little bit about that. You ended up marrying him. Mm-hmm. It was still an abusive situation. Yes. I was wondering, do you think that if your mom wasn't abusive or wasn't an alcoholic and your dad was there just somewhere in some small way, that things may have been different? I'm saying only as far as you getting into the relationship with the boyfriend. Was that just like, okay, Lord, I got to get out the house?
Yes, and absolutely. There were many times when I was a young child that I would cry out for my father because I just wanted relief. I wanted someone to help me. And being an only child, it was literally me and my mother until this perpetrator was brought into the household. And so I absolutely do believe that if I would have had an opportunity to have my father around, first of all, I really don't believe it would have happened, because I would have felt that I had another protector. So even if maybe the initial incidences I would have had somebody else to tell, absolutely. And so that's why it's so important that parents, and I'm saying parents because fathers, there's a lot of single fathers out there as well. So parents make sure that they are very much aware of who they leave their children with for any amount of time, because it just creates such a vulnerable situation for them. So absolutely, I think that would have helped me.
We talk about self-esteem. Where do we get self-esteem from? Is that learned? Is it read about? Where do we get self-esteem?
It is absolutely learned, okay? It starts when they are toddlers. It starts with affirming them, letting that child know what they mean to you, who they are to you, and who they are in life, and that they represent someone special, they represent purpose. And so when you have a child who does not receive that on up through the years, then they start receiving information from anyone and everyone.
Like BT or their friends or...
Absolutely. And if they don't look like everyone else, and if they don't speak like everyone else, and if they don't dress like everyone else, then their self-esteem drops because they're not considered normal or hip or in or whatever. And that was absolutely my situation. I did not fit in. I did not look like everyone else. I did not speak like everyone else. And so not only did I have to deal with the battles within my home, but I dealt with battles at school and out in the neighborhood as well.
Now, do you think that part of that was because you were acting out, thinking that someone's going to hear or see this cry for attention, and it just went unnoticed?
No, I don't believe so. I think it was the opposite. I was very withdrawn growing up. I didn't speak hardly ever unless I was spoken to, because I always had this fear that people would find out, and then I would have to tell it all, and oh, how horrible it was. And people are going to think I'm nasty, or they're going to think that I'm a slut, and these were all of the things that he fed me. These are all of the conversations that he would have to psychologically bind me so that I wouldn't say anything.
Something that I think was very horrifying that he said on a regular basis to you is that, this is going to cause your mom to go back to drinking if you tell. Are predators manipulative?
Absolutely. And they know how to push those buttons that will silence their victims. And he knew, first of all, I was an only child, so that's the first thing. He also knew that I had a weak mother. My mother was an alcoholic. And so he knew that he could utilize those things. He also knew that when she drank, she would have a tendency to get angry. She still had unresolved issues with my father, which she was married to, and the marriage did not last. And so she was still upset. She had her own wounds that she was nursing. But in the midst of that, she needed love too. But she was looking for it the wrong way as well. So now you have this adult who now is a mother, and she's trying to heal those childhood wounds that she had. And so here I am off to the side.
Chapter 11 in the book is about forgiveness and restoration. I don't know why this is so hard to do, but from experience, why is it so hard for us to forgive ourselves? It is a lot easier, don't you think, sometimes to forgive other people?
Oh, yes.
Why is it so hard to forgive ourselves? Especially when we're not even in the wrong. It doesn't make sense.
Right. Well, part of it is because of society.
Okay.
Society puts labels on victims. And if society doesn't feel that the person was truly a victim, then it's they asked for it, or they should have known better, that kind of thing. And so it is very hard, and was very hard for me to come to the realization that I didn't do this. I didn't start this. I did what I had to do to survive. And every attempt that I made to make it right, it backfired in my face year after year after year.
We are here today with author Stephanie Betts of Behind the Smile, A Journey to Strength. In 2 minutes or less, can you tell us how you came up with the title for the book and where people can find you for speaking engagements, things of that nature, where they can buy the book, things of that nature?
Absolutely. Well, the title actually came from, I was in prayer one day, and God spoke to me, and he said, the smile that you wear is not real. And he was absolutely right. I've had a smile on my face since I was a child, but I only put it there so that people wouldn't ask questions. Because I knew that if I had the fear that if I told anybody or spoke of all that went on in my home, all the various types of neglect that went on in my home, that something even worse than physical abuse would happen, that maybe I would end up in a foster home, so on and so forth. These are things that children think about. And so he said, I want this smile to be real. I need you to heal from the inside out so that smile can actually become genuine. And so, that's where the title, Behind the Smile.
You have a most beautiful smile, if I could throw that in there.
Thank you. And it is actually real. It is not a false image of what's going on the inside of me. A Journey to Strength, the tagline, actually is because, healing is a process. You never arrive. You're never done. It is a day-to-day walk. And I need people to understand that it's okay if you have a good day or a good week and then you get set back a couple of days. That's okay, because it's called living. And so it is a journey. It's a lifelong journey. I have committed to doing it. The book was published through my company, Freedom Focus. And my company, Freedom Focus, the mission is it acknowledges the value of human life, the determination to live, and the ability to feel empowered. So many people are walking around in life right now, and they're just living day to day. They don't feel like they have charge over their life situations. And so I created this company. My book is on Amazon.com. I can be reached at freedomfocus6@AOL.com, or my website is freedomfocusedonline.com. So please, I encourage you to get the book, even if the content in the book isn't your story. I guarantee you know someone who would benefit from the information that's in this book. It's not just a sad story, would you say?
I would definitely
absolutely
say that.
At the end, I give you real practical information on how you can begin to live freedom-focused.
I would like to thank you all, What's Up Kansas City. I'd like to thank everyone for watching us. Please go and get this book. Also, please check us out at whatsupkansascity.net. I am at realwithtennille@gmail.com, realwithtennille@hotmail.com. And remember, if you can't keep it real with yourself, you can't keep it real with Tennille.
Hi, my name is Nelson.
And my name is Mia.
And we are CMG. If you would like to promote your business, goods, or services,
visit us at whatsupkansascity.net and cascadesports.tv. And remember,
it pays to advertise.